It is now 7 o'clock, and I will call the meeting to order. Can I please get a roll call?
Vice President Anderson.
Here.
Councillor Blakely.
Here.
Councillor Forbeck.
Here.
Councillor Keys.
Here.
Councillor Levy.
Here.
Councillor Preschel.
Here.
And President Duncan.
Here.
All 7 are present.
Can everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on with the remainder of the agenda, I want to make a brief statement. The murder of George Floyd at the hands of 4 police officers is a tragedy that has happened too many times in the history of this country. His death is a constant reminder of the social injustices that Black people face every day. I live in fear every time a family member leaves the house. This could be their fate. No person should have this worry. We are one human race. In order to move forward and address racial injustices, we must unite as one. This is not a Black problem. This is an American problem. As the City Council President, I strongly support all people's right to protest. This protest, in my opinion, is righteous. It was enlightening and heartwarming to see people of all races join together to end racism. However, I do not support any violence, looting, burning, or destruction of property in the city of Beloit. It is my hope that justice will be served for the George Floyd family and all other families who have suffered injustices. At this time, please join me in a moment of silence for George Floyd. Thank you. We can now move on with the agenda.
Under special orders of the day and announcements, 3A is a proclamation recognizing June as LGBTQ Pride Month. The proclamation is available on the city's website. We will not be reading it in full tonight. Under public hearings, item 4A is consideration of Resolution 2020-93, amending a conditional use permit to allow nightly rental of the rooms in the rooming boarding house located at 1105 East Grand Avenue.
Community Development Director Julie Christensen will now provide an overview.
In 2015, the City Council issued a conditional use permit to allow rooming/boarding house for the property located at 1105 East Grand Avenue. That resolution is included in your packet. Condition number 2 requires the minimum stay to be monthly, as that was the applicant's plan at that time, and the property is located in a mostly residential area. Shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic, planning staff discovered that the rooming house was being rented nightly and being offered on short-term vacation rental websites. Staff initiated contact with the operator, Josu Sandoval, who then applied to amend that 2015 conditional use permit to remove condition number 2. The property is still owned by Matt Finnegan of FPS Rental, who obtained that original conditional use permit, He is on the Plan Commission, but he recused himself from discussion and consideration of this application. After much discussion at Plan Commission on May 20th, they did vote to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the decision form included in your packet, and subject to the 3 conditions recommended by staff, but they did add to condition number 1 to require full compliance with Rock County ordinances, as shown on the resolution, which is in your packet. The resolution requires the following conditions: that the conditional use permit authorizes the use of the subject property as a short-term rental rooming house, where rooms may be rented on a nightly or longer basis. A Rock County lodging license is required. The facility is required to comply with all Rock County license requirements and regulations. 2, the existing 2015 conditional use permit and all conditions attached thereto remain in full force and effect. This specifically includes the condition stating that the conditional use permit is not transferable to a new owner and terminates upon Mr. Finnegan's sale of the property. And then your standard condition about major changes coming back through this public process, but minor changes being approved administratively by staff. And Plan Commission did recommend approval 4-0.
Thank you, Julie. When the city council agenda was posted, an email address was included to provide opportunity for community input by noon today. At this time, the public hearing is open. Will the clerk treasurer please provide any input received?
Madam President, I did not receive any input on this public hearing.
The public hearing is now closed. Can I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
I so move. This is Counselor Blakely.
Is there a second?
Nancy Forbeck does second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Blakely and a second by Councilor Forbeck. Now I will go for get comments from councilors. Vice President Anderson, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Councilor Blakely, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Forbeck, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No.
Thank you, Councilor Forbeck. Councilor Keys, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No questions.
Thank you. Councilor Levy, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just a couple. So Julie, my understanding is that this would not move forward until the individual meets the requirements of the Rock County. Like I get the license requirements and regulations from Rock County.
Yes, it needs to meet that condition before it can be established.
Okay, and then the other question that I have is, before we said that it was for like renting on a monthly basis, was this individual aware of that? Because when he started renting it nightly, I'm just wondering, did he know at that time that he needed to come back and get the conditional use permit changed? And I'm not saying that he did, but I don't want it to seem as though that he did it and then we caught on to it and then we brought it to his attention, because if we didn't do that, would he still be renting it on a nightly basis?
I don't know if he knew it could only be monthly, because this is a different operator than from the original conditional use application. I just know that once we brought it to his attention, I mean, he seemed not to know. And then he filed for the conditional use amendment. And at Plan Commission, it did seem as though this is just a small part of his business, that it wasn't all nightly rentals. So I think it was something he kind of fell into, and I don't think he was aware of the original conditions. But I didn't ask him that question, so I can't say for certain.
Okay, and then finally, so I'm assuming that he would need to bring in proper documentation from the county to let you know that everything has been met, correct?
He would have to bring it in, or we have been reaching out to Rock County, so they could also provide it to us directly. But yeah, either them or the operator or Rock County would have to provide that to us.
Okay, thanks. No more questions.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Councilor Preschel, any questions or discussion on the motion?
Well, I'd just like to help answer Kevin's questions. He did mention that this kind of evolved over time, and it's the result of Airbnb usage. And it's also in the packet that Beloit will try and recover their, whatever taxes are due, but it still represents a portion, just a portion of his normal business out of that facility. And just, I'm sure you all looked at it, but the building looks great. The layout's great. He's got the off-street parking that he's supposed to have. I was quite impressed with how it looks very, very presentable. No wonder his Airbnb operation has gotten interest. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilor Preschel. And I just wanted to reiterate what Councilor Levy said, that the facility is required to comply with all Rock County license requirements and regulations. So that's a good thing. At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve the resolution. I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Councilor Blakely,
Aye.
Councilor Forbeck,
Aye.
Councilor Keys,
Aye.
Councilor Levy,
Aye.
Councilor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Item 4B is consideration of ordinance number 3680, amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit to change the zoning from M2 to C1 office district for property located at 1195 Prince Hall Drive. This is first reading.
At this time, our Community Development Director, Julie Christensen, will provide a brief overview.
ABC Supply Company had been previously approved for a 4-story office building at 3 ABC Drive. As part of this project, off-site parking must be constructed to accommodate the development. They submitted site plans for a commercial parking lot expansion. The proposed project includes combining 1111 Prince Hall Drive and 1195 Prince Hall Drive and removing an access point. The two properties currently have different zoning classifications and must be the same to be combined. So this area is kind of evolving into more offices rather than manufacturing. So the commercial designation is more appropriate. Planning Commission reviewed this application on May 20th and voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend approval. And this is on your agenda for first reading, so you will not approve tonight. It's just the night for the public hearing and first reading.
Thank you, Julie. When the City Council agenda was posted, an email address was included to provide an opportunity for community input by noon today. At this time, the public hearing is open. Would the clerk treasurer please provide any input received?
Madam President, I did not receive any input for this public hearing.
The public hearing is now closed. This is a first reading. Is there a motion to lay the item over?
Nancy Forbeck, I so move.
Is there a second?
Mark Preschel, I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilor Forbeck and a second by Councilor Preschel. At this time, there's a motion and a second to lay over ordinance number 3680. Is there any discussion? I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Councilor Blakely,
Aye.
Councilor Forbeck,
Aye.
Councilor Keys,
Aye.
Councilor Levy,
Aye.
Councilor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Next item is public comment.
When the agenda was posted, we asked the public to notify us by noon today if they wish to provide any public comment. Can the clerk treasurer provide the public comment at this time?
I do, yes, I do have 5 to be read, so bear with me here. Pablo Toral of 1139 Eaton Avenue says, I urge you to extend COVID-19 restrictions to protect Beloit community from further infections. I know many members of my community who have been affected. The health impact of COVID-19 includes loss of life, potentially lifelong health conditions, and emotional stress. However, there are further long-term impacts that include financial distress, the ability to put kids through school and college, which is out ticket to the middle class, profiling, and social alienation. Please help us enforce measures, keep everyone safe. Megan Miller says, thank you for accepting my comments. I want to thank you for your support of yesterday's protest. I take stopping the spread of COVID-19 seriously because just like national police brutality, COVID-19 is also a Black Lives Matter issue. I'm so proud that our city has done such an exceptional job of promoting common sense safety measures to stop the spread that has so disproportionately impacted minority communities. I knew people were going to protest regardless, and I tried to create a space that was conscious of social distancing, peaceful and productive. I encourage anyone who participated in any protest or gathering to get tested for COVID or to please stay at home as much as possible for the next 14 days. I am writing because I do hope to see our city extend the safer at home orders you laid out in your last meeting. To go even further, I encourage the city to continue the work that you have started by addressing racial justice in our police department. Please do continue the community conversations I heard you were going to start up again. Please do continue to look for innovative ways to practice community policing. And please encourage citizens to get involved and attend the Police and Fire Commission meetings. I know these are posted on Facebook. Perhaps you can continue to let concerned citizens know about how these meetings work and when they meet. My final thoughts are that I am grateful and proud of our whole community. Chief Z's leadership yesterday was exceptional. Lori's leadership with regard to COVID and all the racial justice implications of it is admirable, and I am so thankful for our city's continued dedication to justice and excellence. Thank you to the City Council and our city's administrative leadership, and I hope you do continue these matters. Megan Miller, 1811 Vista Drive. John Kelkertz of 2232 Winchester Drive says, I strongly support the COVID restrictions to be extended by the Beloit City Council for the next 2 weeks and be reviewed every 2 weeks thereafter. Judith Robson, 2411 East Ridge Road, says, Rock County and Beloit are hot. City Council members, trustees of our health and safety, please vote to extend the Safer at Home extension. Beloit, I believe, has 68% of Rock County's totals, yet our population is smaller than Janesville. The higher percentage of cases in Beloit requires another extension. Be well, stay safe. And Ellen Joyce of 1134 Eaton Avenue says, please keep the current restrictions in place to promote public safety during the time when COVID-19 virus is continuing to spread in the community. I hope the restrictions can be renewed for 2 weeks and reevaluated every 2 weeks after that. Public health and safety need to be our first priority, and the job of city government is, I believe, to protect the most vulnerable and voiceless of our citizens. Thank you for your hard work on our behalf. That concludes the public comments that I have, Madam President.
Thank you. I moved item 12B up on the agenda.
Item 12B is consideration of Resolution 2020-94, approving an extension of Resolution 2020-89 related to COVID-19 prevention and control in the city of Beloit.
City Manager Lloyd Curtis Luther will provide a brief overview.
Thank you. The city of Beloit remains committed to safely reopening the economy while protecting the health of residents, businesses, and visitors. The city's local authority under Chapter 323 of the Wisconsin State Statutes and Section 1.10 of the Code of General Ordinances for the City of Beloit provides the ability to establish and extend requirements to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of residents. On May 18, 2020, the City Council adopted Resolution 2020-089. This order allowed all businesses to safely reopen while taking basic safety precautions. Last week, as of May 27th, 359 positive COVID cases were in Beloit of 588 total cases in Rock County. That equated to 61% of the total cases in Rock County. Of the positive cases in Beloit, 58% identified as Hispanic and Latino ethnicity, and 21% were African American. There were still 767 tests with results pending at the time. Based on the ongoing health risks to those in our community that include a number of fatalities, and due to the fact that there is still no vaccine or herd immunity, I recommend a continuation of the existing order via Resolution 2020-094. I further recommend reviewing the restrictions at every regularly scheduled council meeting until it is safe to remove them. It is likely that the minimum safety restrictions will be in place for a longer period of time, with the recommendation for group sizes potentially being adjusted when it is safe to do so. I am happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, City Manager Luther. At this time, can I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
Vice President Anderson will move.
I will second. This is Sherry Blakely.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice President Anderson and a second by Councilor Blakely. Now I will ask questions from councilors. Vice President Anderson, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No.
Councilor Blakely, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Just a brief comment that I am very proud of Beloit and our community. We're helping to keep each other safe at this time. The safety and health of all of our citizens is so important. Following these guidelines for a while longer, I think is the best idea yet. And we're keeping an eye on our local economy at the same time. So when we come back full force, we all will be stronger than ever. Thank you.
Councilor Forbeck, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Just an enthusiastic response to extending this. We need to be responsible, and I think we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Forbeck. Councilor Keyes, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
I do. So a question for the city manager. The data showed the number of cases as of May 27th, and that we still had 767 tests pending. And one of the reopening parameters is a downward trend of positive cases over a 14-day period. So my question is, have we gotten data back on any of those pending tests, and what have the recent trends been showing?
Unfortunately, I have not received any updated data from the Rock County Public Health Department for Beloit specifically. if I had received that information, I would have immediately sent it on to the full council. We are having to wait until the county is able to break down that information for us. And so the information provided this evening as of May 27th is the most recent data that I have available. I know that Rock County provided county-wide information today, but we do not have information specific to Beloit other than what has already been provided.
Thank you for that clarification. And then just to reiterate, as far as the testing, the positive test trends, have the trends shown? Could you just review what the recent testing trends are? Have they continued to go up? Are they staying flat, or are we starting to see a decline?
So I only have one set of Beloit specific data from the county at this time.
Okay, so it's unable to compare.
Because they are not reporting the Beloit specific data on a daily basis, our ability to evaluate that kind of information is limited. So I am hoping to get better information in the future and more timely information from the county. I do know that we are still today receiving some of the test results from the community testing that was conducted. So that has created a lag as well. So all of the information that we have is included in the staff report. There is possibly some additional information regarding the age demographics that has been provided, but otherwise I cannot specifically answer the question that you've raised until I get more information from the county.
Thank you for clarifying. That is helpful for me. And I just want to comment too that I'm very proud of the measures that we've taken and that we have those guidelines. And just want to say that COVID-19 has not gone away, and we do need to continue to protect our community.
Thank you, Councilor Keys, and thank you, City Manager Luther. Councilor Levy, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No, I don't.
Councilor Preschel, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Just thank you, Brittany and Councilor Keys, and for asking those questions earlier about the timing and the lack of data. I'm looking forward to seeing some trend. I like trends much more than specific data points. And I sense a bit of frustration there. Do we have to wait through the filter, or it can't be delivered directly to the city of Beloit from the National Guard or wherever it's coming from?
Councilor Preschel, I think at this time what we'll do is have City Manager Luther respond to that.
Okay.
As you may have read, and one of the purposes of the letter from the council to Rock County was to request that they provide more information, more specific information, and more timely information. I can only provide to you what they give me. There is no way in our current circumstance to receive data other than through Rock County, except I will say that I'm very proud of the partnership that we have with Beloit Health System. Because they were an active partner in community testing, we will have more specific breakdown of the test results coming from community testing, but the testing that happens at large and outside the Beloit Health System, we do not control and cannot access unless Rock County Health Department chooses to share it with us.
Manager Luther. Thank you, City Manager Luther. And I just want to add, I believe that we get regular updates on our City of Beloit website as well. So that's good to know. At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve the resolution At this time, I'll now ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Counselor Blakely,
Aye.
Counselor Forbeck,
Aye.
Counselor Keys,
Aye.
Counselor Levy,
Aye.
Counselor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Item 6 is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Would any counselor like anything removed from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Nancy Forbeck, I so move.
Is there a second?
Brittany Keys, I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Counselor Forbeck, a second by Counselor Keys. There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? I will now ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Counselor Blakely,
Aye.
Counselor Forbeck,
Aye.
Counselor Keys,
Aye.
Counselor Levy,
Aye.
Counselor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. There are no licenses, there are no ordinances, and there are no appointments this evening. So item number 10 is councilor activities and upcoming events.
Okay, at this time, I will ask counselors to share some of the activities and events that they participated in. And if you have a committee report that you would like to give, you're certainly welcome to do that. First, tonight, Vice President Anderson, do you have any news to share?
Yeah, just a couple remarks. First, I just want to, just like everybody else is probably going to do today, share my condolences with George Floyd's family. He shouldn't have been killed by the police, and I feel safe enough speaking for just about everyone here today when I say it's horrendous, it shouldn't have happened, and all four of those officers should face consequences for their actions or inaction. I also want to thank all those people who organized several peaceful protests throughout yesterday and today. I'm very proud of our community. Our community stood up and demanded better. And these kind of protests remind me why I love Beloit so much. We have a lot of great people here that want to fight for equity. I also want to give a shout out to Chief Sobalski and Captain Sales. Yesterday, they did talk to protesters at City Hall and even took a knee in solidarity with them. And I don't know if everybody realizes this, but we're very lucky to have leadership like that. And even today, I saw Captain Sales took pictures of some protesters this morning, and even Chief Sobalski walked with them this afternoon. The law enforcement officers here care about the city of Beloit, and I truly believe them when they say we're going to continue the conversations, and I hope everybody involved wants to make positive progress to ensure Beloit's a better city for everyone who calls it home. The last thing I'll say before I stop talking is I've had a lot of people today contact me, and maybe have contacted some of my other colleagues on the council about getting involved. And it's great to hear that people are finally starting to take a look and having interest in what they can do. I had someone who was 14 years old ask me what she can do to get more involved in the community, and that's great. But for a lot of you that are maybe listening or will listen to this, this is a good chance for us to have you join some of our committees. And I know President Duncan usually makes this plug, but I'm going to make it today too. And I think it's really important. So I just want to read off the committees that we have open really quick. First, we have one vacancy for the Appointment Review Committee. We have 2 vacancies for a resident. For the Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee, 1 vacancy for Tavern League rep, and 1 vacancy for a school board rep. For the Board of Appeals, we have 4 vacancies for residents, 1 vacancy for an alternate, and 1 vacancy for second alternate. For the Board of Review, we have 1 vacancy for a resident of the city of Beloit and 2 vacancies for alternates. We have 1 vacancy for the Community Development Authority. For the Equal Opportunities Commission, we have 3 vacancies for residents. For the Landmarks Commission, we have 3 vacancies for residents. For the Municipal Library Board, we have 2 vacancies for residents. For the Park, Recreation, and Conservation Advisory Commission, we have 1 vacancy for a School District of Beloit representative. We have 1 vacancy for Plan Commission, and we have 1 vacancy for Police and Fire Commission. Obviously, we have a lot of people that need to be involved. I hope a lot of people that got involved yesterday and even today will sign up for those committees. I'm sure President Duncan can attest to this too, that we've, for the last several months, only had 1 or 2 people apply. So let's take that action that we had yesterday and today and use it to help make the city of Beloit a better place and make it a better spot for everybody to live. So that ends my comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Anderson. Councilor Blakely.
I just want to commend Councilor Anderson on his eloquent words. Thank you very much for bringing all that to light this evening, Clint. I want to just draw attention to the fact that, as we said earlier, with the proclamation that'll be posted on the city's website, it is LGBTQ Pride Month. It's so important to remember acceptance and kindness toward everyone right now. I also wanted to bring up the public library. I attended my first municipal library board meeting last week. I was impressed with how thorough it is and how dedicated the people on the board are. And I want to let the public know, as it says on the Beloit Public Library's website, that right now the library is open for computer use, fax use, and copiers this Monday through Thursday from 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Starting June 8th, full service will resume at the public library, and they are taking extreme precautions to help keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Blakely. Next, Councilor Forbeck.
Yes, I'd like to mention 2 of the committees that I serve on. One is the Equal Opportunities Commission. And as someone already said, one of my great co-counselors, we have 3 openings there. And since we are all aware that besides protesting, now we really have to act, I want to encourage people to apply to be on this committee. I know that we're going to be taking a new look at action items that we can work on, and just wanted to pass that invitation out to the community. The second thing I'd like to say is I'm lucky enough to sit on the Youth to Youth board, and I hope some people have noticed the wonderful billboards that are up that talk about the good news. Most Beloit students, say no to drugs. It was so wonderful to me coming back on Riverside Drive the other day to see these positive billboards that are personal. They're based on truth and data, and so lots of people working to make our community as good as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Forbeck. Councilor Keyes.
So from the Parks and Recreation Committee, we have not met yet, but I want to reiterate, we have not met since I've been on the committee, but I want to reiterate something that they've shared on their Facebook site. And that's that the city of Beloit has made the difficult decision to cancel its 2020 summer programming, including the Beloit Dirty Dash, due to the ongoing risks of COVID-19 in our community. Regarding Kruger Pool, it will not be open in June, and a final decision for the remainder of the summer has not been made. The Parks and Rec Department, we are very proud to have completed the construction of 2 new splash pads in the city, and please stay tuned to what we are able to do there. With respect to just health, in general, June is Men's Health Month. So this month, I encourage all the men of Beloit to really take a self-assessment and assess where you are, and in a moment to see how you can fully invest in your physical and mental health, because these times are challenging for everyone. And you can find more information at menshealthmonth.org regarding that. And lastly, I want to say that I stand in solidarity with our Black community as we grieve and protest not only the recent string of violence and the lives lost due to police brutality and racism, but also the generations of oppression and trauma due to systemic racism. Racism is a public health crisis in Rock County, in Wisconsin, and across the country. Sitting here as a white, cisgender, heterosexual female on the city council, I acknowledge my privilege, and I also recognize my responsibility, and we must do better, and we will. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Keys. Councilor Levy.
Yeah, just a couple things. I want to thank the city manager and the chief for their statement that they put out, the public statement that they put out. Got a lot of feedback on that on the Facebook social media page. A lot of people were passing that on and were very pleased. I've had people from other cities reach out and say what a wonderful thing that was, because it came out quickly and timely. So kudos to them as well, and anyone else who worked on those as well. But I really want to thank the individuals who put on the protest march yesterday. It was very peaceful. It was live on Facebook and very well attended and no trouble. And then from there, as the people showed up at City Hall, I want to commend the chief and sales as well, because if you listen to that talking with the community, there were people there that were trying to agitate the situation. And I think the chief did a great job of just remaining calm, answering questions, and making sure that it did not get out of hand, because I think you do have people in the crowd that want to turn it into the Madisons and the Minnesotas and things and do some damage. But I think the way that our police officers handled that confrontation, that's what I'm going to call it, I think, and de-escalated a lot of things, that we did not have the trouble that other cities have. And also what I heard, and then we had residents that was in the crowd that was discouraging that type of behavior as well. So when we talk about the city of Beloit, not only do we have dedicated staff who love the city, but we have residents who also love the city, that know the amount of work that we put in to building the city up to where it is now, that they were not going to allow anything to happen to this great city. So kudos to the residents, and then also to our entire city staff.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Councilor Preschel.
Hello. I'm not going to go over what Clint said so well. He was very eloquent and covered a lot of ground, and I'm wholeheartedly in favor of everything Clint had to say when he started this off. And Brittany and Kevin, thank you both. I attended the march yesterday too, and I was impressed with the crowd and the way it turned out, and the unanimity of the message that was presented there and the way it was done. It's well done. And down at City Hall, I can confirm that what Kevin was saying, where people were shouting down the people that were really out there, and you could watch that happen. And I felt really good about all the people I knew, and I knew quite a few of them that were there. And I didn't hang around for the Chiefs coming out, but I was really impressed when I saw that. That was a real good leadership move, and did wonders. It shows the kind of community we have. I will go over to my committee assignments and talk about Visit Beloit, because there may be people who are wondering what's up with the old Angel Museum, and they are moving forward. We had a board meeting last week. They're seeking a couple of alternative proposals for the first phase build out, which is just the building itself, just the downstairs area where the offices will be, and possibly the upstairs. They've broken that into a 2-phase or alternate 1, alternate 2 build proposal to see what's going to cost, because they're trying to hedge their money. Revenues for the hotel tourism industry are way down, 70% or more, and no crystal ball saying when that's going to kick back up. So they're very proactive. I've seen some really good leadership in the last 2 or 3 months here in Beloit, and you can tell when these times are hard, and they haven't been hard like this maybe ever, and on my lifetime. And you can see who shines. The people, good, solid leadership. I think that's one of the things our country is sorely lacking on many levels. Thankfully, Beloit is not lacking in leadership, and it's not lacking in a good, solid base of really smart, reasonable people who understand how to get along, who understand how to build a better place. So thanks a lot. That's my end.
Thank you, Councilor Grisham. And now my report. I want to reiterate what all my other fellow colleagues said about the chief. And also there was Captain Sales that joined him to speak with the protesters. So I just want to say thank you to them. And I thought it was really great, all the postings on Facebook, and also how our chief and Captain Sales took a knee for solidarity. So I just want to thank them for that. It's important that we join together because this is not a Black problem, it's an American problem. Also, I had a chance to lead the protest yesterday in my car from a distance safely. It was nice to be joined by Councilor Blakely and Representative Freitzer. Kudos to Megan Miller for her leadership and organization. It was peaceful. She did a fantastic job. And at a future meeting, I'd like to read some of her speech that she gave because it was wonderful, but I know we have a long agenda tonight. But one of the things I do want to mention is that Megan will have a virtual meeting on Monday, June 15th at 7 p.m. It's called Showing Up for Racial Justice, and it'll be on her Facebook page. So that it'd be great if you check that out. I also want to mention that the flowers in our downtown area are beautiful. So thanks to Shauna and the Downtown Beloit Association. Also, I want to congratulate one of the newest homeowners in Beloit, Edwin Chavez. He is doing an awesome job with his rehab project at his new house. So way to go, Edwin. I also want to mention that we have been receiving input from counselors. When I say we have been receiving input from community members, so it would be helpful if you would please send notes through our City of Beloit website. And I just want to make a special note to everyone that a response may be delayed from us because we have directed our city manager to make the pandemic crisis a priority. Also, the Beloit Farmers Market will be reopening, so be sure and check that out with safety precautions on June 6, 2020. And for more, also, I'd like to add that to all our veterans and service members and everyone who have sacrificed for our country, that you hopefully had a happy Memorial Day. And then last but not least, I'd like to say happy 5th work anniversary to our city manager, Lori Curtis Luther, and our city clerk, treasurer, Lori Stotler. We are so lucky to have you on our staff, and we truly appreciate, I can say we're all on here together, all that you do. So thank you. If we were all in person, we could give you a hand, have you stand up. I think it's just so important because you bring a lot to our organization. Next, we'll move on to item 12B.
Under item 11, city manager presentation, I believe that city manager Luther wanted to make a short presentation.
Thank you. I just want to very briefly reiterate for the public tonight my thoughts and speak on behalf of our entire staff in regard to what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis. And unequivocally, it is beyond horrific. And as a mother, my heart goes out to parents everywhere who have lost a child, and particularly to people of color who live with the fear that something like this could happen to them or to their child. Chief Zabalski and the entire Beloit Police Department, the City Council, as eloquently stated by our council president and individual members of the council, all of our staff and we all stand united in our dedication to combat racism, violence, and abuse of power. And today, the Beloit Police Department's commitment to guardianship and building positive community relationships is more important than ever. We will continue to work towards making Beloit a model city for partnerships between all racial and ethnic groups, but recognizing the specific racial divide that is impacting Black people in America. Thank you for allowing me to put my comments on the record.
Thank you, City Manager Luther. I just want to make a correction. That would be, we go on to item 12A.
You bet. Reports from boards and city officers. Item 12A is consideration of resolution 2020-90, authorizing a taxation district to waive interest and penalties on property tax payment installments due on or after April 1st, 2020.
At this time, our Finance and Administrative Services Director, Eric Miller, will provide a brief overview.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Due to the financial hardships caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the state passed Act 185, which allows counties and local governments to pass resolutions allowing the waiver of penalty and interest on property tax payments due after April 30th, so long as they are paid in full by October 1st. The county passed their resolution on May 14th, which then allowed the city to consider passing a similar resolution, which is before you tonight. The city has already collected over 70% of the property taxes prior to April 30 and has collected a significant amount since then. So we believe that this would have a very minimal impact on the city, but it could provide pretty significant relief to our taxpayers. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
At this time, can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Counselor Keys.
Nancy Forbeck, and I. Go ahead, Brittany.
Counselor Keys, so move.
Okay.
Nancy Forbeck, second.
Okay. So Counselor Keys made the motion, and then the second by Counselor Forbeck. At this time, we'll take questions and discussions from counselors, starting with Vice President Anderson. Do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No, I'm just glad that we're doing this. So thank you for the county and thank you for staff for doing this. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Blakely, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Once again, I find myself in complete agreement with Vice President Anderson.
Thank you. Counselor Forbeck, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
Well, it's so seldom, I think, that any kind of government can show itself and truly act in a compassionate way. So I'm pleased that the professionals we have on our staff are bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Keys, do you have
No.
any questions on the motion?
No questions, and I just want to say thank you for the report, and I too am glad that we are doing this.
Thank you, Counselor Keys. Counselor Levy, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No.
Thank you. Counselor Preschel, do you have any questions or discussion on the motion?
No.
Thank you, Counselor Preschel. At this time, there is a motion and a second to approve the resolution. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Counselor Blakely,
Aye.
Counselor Forbeck,
Aye.
Counselor Keys,
Aye.
Counselor Levy,
Aye.
Counselor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Under item 12C, the City Council will adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1E to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session, namely to discuss potential development agreement and lease agreement between the City of Beloit and Riverband Stadium Authority, Inc.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to go into closed session at this time?
So move. Levy.
Moved by Counselor Levy. Is there a second?
Blakely,
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, we have a second by Counselor Blakely. At this time, there's a motion and a second to go into closed session. We will not be reconvening into open session. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will now ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Anderson,
Aye.
Counselor Blakely,
Aye.
Counselor Forbeck,
Aye.
Counselor Keys,
Aye.
Counselor Levy,
Aye.
Counselor Preschel,
Aye.
President Duncan.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously, and we are in closed session at 7:57.
City Attorney Beth Krieger.
I have muted the public line. You are now in closed session. If Julie and Eric and Laura or anybody else doesn't want to be on the call, you're free to leave. I'm not sure, Lori, who you intended to leave on the call.
So I definitely need Julie and Laura. Eric, you are welcome to stay on if you wish, but aren't required. We have Dick Eady, who is with Stafford Rosenbaum, and he is our outside attorney who has been providing us with advice with some of his colleagues on the very complicated ground lease and development agreement for the Riverbend Stadium Authority. We thought it would be helpful to go through the documents, the key issues, and let the council know where we are, answer any questions you might have, and if there is a consensus at the conclusion of this meeting, we could come back on Monday, June 8th to have a special meeting in open session for the consideration to adopt the proposed ground lease and development agreement. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Dick Eady to walk us through the core issues and take it from here.
Hi, everyone. Good to talk to you again. I'm pleased to report that as of about 4:05 this evening, the last issue standing in the way of agreement was apparently resolved. So it looks like we have, assuming that you approve, of course, an agreement that we're ready to approve on June 8th. That issue dealt with the contamination of the site. I think you're all aware that the site was a former manufactured gas plant that was contaminated with coal tar and was remediated by the city, but there's remaining coal tar at the site, which is capped to prevent any public contact with it. We wanted to make sure that when the people developed the stadium here, that they didn't do anything to cause the contamination to spread or otherwise cause liability for the city. So what we've agreed on is that we have a provision that says that we won't sue them as long as they don't do anything to cause the contamination to spread. And that was the big issue that was preventing us from reaching agreement. By the way, anybody should feel free to interrupt me with questions as we go along here.
Dick, may I interrupt?
Sure.
Councilor Blakely. So it's written that we won't sue them if they take care not to disturb the contaminants. Is
Right.
is that oddly worded, or am I just unfamiliar with agreements like that?
Well, no, it is oddly worded, but that was the way that we came up, that we could reach an agreement on how to handle it. If you look at section 2.5.3 of the lease, city agrees to release the RSA, that's the Riverbend Stadium Authority, and its board members, agents, representatives, and affiliates from all claims the city may have with respect to the residual soil and groundwater contamination at the stadium site, unless such claims arise from the acts of RSA, its agents, contractors, or users. Users is capitalized there because it's a defined term that includes the baseball team that they're going to be leasing the site to in connection with their development or operation of the stadium site. So we've agreed that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll step back.
Go ahead, Dick.
We've agreed that we're responsible for the contamination that's there. You know, that's not their responsibility. But if they do anything to cause a problem, then they're subject to liability.
If I could ask councilors to please wait for your questions, and we could go ahead and have Dick go ahead and present, and then we'll take questions at the end. Just make a note of your questions on the side. How about that? Thank you.
Okay. Well, in essence, the lease says that they get the use of the property for purposes of a baseball stadium, but they have to maintain it, and they're responsible for any expenses and management at the site. It does reserve the use of the walkway that goes around the outside of the site along the river for public use, and has to be open at all times. And at the end of the lease, they have to restore at our option, they have to restore the site to its condition prior to the lease. They have to insure the site and protect us from liability. And I think that's kind of the summary of the lease. I can, we can get into details if you have any questions about it, but that's the essence of the lease. I don't know, do you want to add anything, Laurie?
Thank you. I know that one of the counselors had asked about whether or not we had included in the lease agreement that the Riverbend Stadium Authority has to guarantee that a minor league baseball team will be playing there. And in the document, the definition of team is a Class A minor league baseball team known as the Beloit Snappers, affiliated currently with the Oakland Athletics Organization, that the Riverbend Stadium Authority has the right to change the team, the league in which the team plays, and or substitute a different baseball team, so long as the new team is affiliated with a major league or minor league baseball franchise. So that is specific in the agreement, and so I wanted to make sure to address that.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you for
There's
that,
also
Laurie.
a section that I had neglected to highlight, and I'm looking for now, but we included a number of local agencies, including the Beloit High School, Beloit College, having the ability to use the field at no cost, as long as it doesn't conflict with the regular schedule. If you know exactly where that is, I'm having trouble finding it quickly. And counselors, because we were still negotiating a very significant portion of the lease, in that there was still this question of environmental indemnification that we were not willing to provide. And just as Dick said, late in the day received word that in fact the language that we proposed would be acceptable. We did not send the draft documents to you in advance, but if there's a consensus with the general terms and conditions, then those would be posted when we schedule the meeting for June 8th.
Yeah, if section 5.2 is the section you're looking for, Laurie.
Thank you. All right, that is entitled Civic Uses, and it states that the Riverbend Stadium Authority shall have the responsibility to coordinate or delegate coordination of scheduling, et cetera, to have non-baseball events at times that the facilities are not in use. They shall allow Beloit Memorial High School and Beloit College to use the stadium for regular season and playoff games at no charge, other than to cover actual administrative and cleaning costs. So I thought that was an important piece to make sure that we had in writing that the Riverbend Stadium Authority has the responsibility. They will have a use agreement with the suitor group on the use, and that will include scheduling and cleaning and maintenance, but that ensures that there will be some free civic uses available to benefit the community. We actually talked about general terms of the lease agreement. Oh gosh, I'd have to defer to Dick or Beth. I feel like it was maybe last summer. We were still at the 2400 building. So this isn't new to everyone. And I know you don't have a document in front of you, but are there any other kind of general questions on the lease itself?
What we
Laurie.
do is, I think, just a moment. We're going to go down with counselors. I think it'll be a lot easier because we'll be talking over each other. So I'll call on each counselor, and at that time, you can ask your questions. So let's start with Vice President Anderson.
No, I don't have any comments at this time.
Okay, Counselor Blakely, any comments at this time?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Forbeck, any comments?
Yes. Lori, I know that this is a time of deep unrest within Major League Baseball. And I guess what I'm asking is, what will happen if, in fact, the threats that are being made that most of the teams will not pay any of their minor league players? I mean, this couldn't probably be at a worse time as far as that goes. I'm sure everybody's aware of that, but I'm just wondering where Beloit is with those kind of assurances.
Right. So because the city has no money in this arrangement per se, we have the land, but all of the stadium construction is being funded by Diane Hendricks and maybe some small fundraising that they continue to do. But we're talking about $30 to $40 million investments. They are the ones really at the greatest risk and have personal guarantees from Major League Baseball. Minor League Baseball may not look the same in the future, but I think the affiliation with Major League Baseball is what has been guaranteed to both Diane and Quint Suter.
Okay, thank you so much.
Council Forbeck, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, Counselor Keys.
No questions right now, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Levy.
No questions.
Counselor Pritchell.
Well, just to clarify, the language is in the lease about the requirement to be affiliated with Major League Baseball. That's correct, right? And
That was the definition I read earlier.
yeah, that's what I read earlier. My other question, you've all heard this around town. What happens if they start building it and then this all falls apart because baseball doesn't follow through on their promises? How far are they going to get? What's going to happen to the land? There's been some of that, and I kind of understand the questions there, where they're coming from.
Well, I can tell you that the lease provides that they'll either restore the property or we'll get the stadium. If they don't have any money to restore the property, then we get the stadium. But we don't have any, as Lori said, the city doesn't have any investment in this other than allowing the use of the land.
Yeah. Well, if they wanted to turn around and build townhouses, I'd be okay with that anyway. So better yet.
That isn't allowable under the existing lease.
Okay. The other question I had is kind of self-serving, perhaps. Did I hear you mention BJSO and those numbers of people or organizations that should be able to use the stadium?
I'm sorry, Councilor Kreshel, they were not included specifically.
Oh, shucks. We don't have any money. And we don't have any venues. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Dick,
Any other questions,
you
Councilor Pritchell?
forgot Dick, you forgot the symphony. How could you?
It's a shock to me, but do they play outdoor concerts now?
But right now it's just 4th of July. We just like to have a venue. We just like to have a venue that we don't have to pay for.
Okay.
There may be a conflict that we need to avoid, so let's move along.
It's a closed
Right.
session for a reason.
Wait a minute. Councilor Prussia, do you have any other questions?
Not at this time.
All righty then. Thank you. I do have one question, and my question to you is to you, Lori. I just wanted to ask about the time frame. So if you could just clarify that for us.
Right. So one of the reasons why we're suggesting, if there's a consensus this evening, that we have the special meeting on the 8th is because they want to get under construction as soon as possible. They intend to have a baseball stadium built for next season. So they are going to move very quickly. I think we have seen with the Amazon project that the right amount of funding can make projects move a lot faster than I ever thought was possible. So far be it from me to suggest that that can't happen on that timeline. I do want to mention that once we get the draft to you, there are a couple of other documents that are referenced. One is Stormwater Management. I already have the authority to sign off on Stormwater Management and Maintenance Agreements. Those are highly technical documents that do not go to the council. The Stormwater Management Agreement is referenced in the lease for the city's protection, but I just wanted to point that out to you before you get the document. I also wanted to remind the council that last year when the Studer Group was approaching the Snappers about purchasing the franchise and the Snappers assigning the lease of Pullman Field to the Studer Group, the council did pass a resolution that allowed that assignment to move forward. There was agreement on how the proceeds of the sale of the franchise would be treated. We have reached an agreement between the parties on that issue as well. And so everything is ready to move forward. But for this lease agreement and the development agreement, there is one future easement issue with Alliance Energy that is not confrontational, and that will need to come forward as well. And otherwise, we will, pardon the pun, we will be ready to play ball.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Luther. And I just wanted to mention, because we have a new council member, Councilor Key, just wanted to mention that all the documents, I just want you to verify this, are reviewed by Dick and Beth. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Can you just explain that a little bit, Lori?
Right. So we don't hire outside attorneys except through the city attorney. She is the one who is responsible for all of that activity and all of those decisions. So she authorized hiring Stafford Rosenbaum to assist us on this project. And so Dick has been the lead there helping us. We do have one more document to walk through tonight. In general terms, it is a development agreement between the city and the developer. It is structured a little differently than how the council has seen our prior development agreements, but it makes very clear who is responsible for what improvements, the cost of improvements, connections, etc., so that there's no question between the city and the developer. And these are short-term items that are related to construction only, whereas the lease agreement is a long-term agreement that will stay in place and be effective for a much longer period of time. Did you have any highlights from the development agreement, Dick, that you wanted to share?
Well, yeah, I think the development agreement is, from my experience, a typical kind of development agreement that provides for who's got what obligation to do what in the development of this property. You'll see the same kind of development agreement with somebody who's bringing in a plat to be developed in the city, I think. The one odd factor here is that part of the stormwater management facilities are in the state of Illinois, in the city of South Beloit. And the RSA is gonna have a separate agreement with the city of South Beloit for maintenance of a stormwater detention pond that's going to be south of the border. With that, I can go through it. Essentially, it says that they've got to do what it says in the PUD that you approved a while ago. They're going to construct and install all of the improvements. They've got to get approval of starting dates. The specifications for the public improvements have to be approved by the city. They're going to install street lights, sanitary sewer, water, storm sewer, etc., at their cost. They're going to reimburse the city's expenses for approving and inspecting those things. There's a guarantee of the improvements, and they're going to provide surety to make sure they finish what they start. They're going to be responsible for permits and fees. They're going to obey laws. They're going to provide insurance. And they're going to specify a person that is going to be in charge out there that we can contact if we have an issue with how things are going. Those are kind of the general terms of the development agreement. And again, if you have any questions about particulars, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Sir, any counselors have any questions at this time? Lori, you had something to ask?
I was just going to mention that I want to thank Julie Christensen for taking the lead on this project in March when I had to really step aside and start focusing on our COVID-19 response. And Laura was involved with daily EOC operations. And so Julie has really been shepherding this project. And while it sounds really simple right now, it has taken hours upon hours of behind the scenes staff work to get to this point. And, you know, coordination with the Public Works Department and with the city engineer and our stormwater issues and everything else related to this. So I just thank the staff for everything that they've done to make it possible to get to this point. And I would just say that regardless of how you may feel about a number of issues, this project couldn't happen but for the fact that we have a local billionaire that wants to build a ballpark and is willing to take the risk. Because there is no way, even if we wanted to, that the city would have the finances to pull it off. And, you know, I have been open from the very beginning saying that it's nice to have a ballpark, but it's not a requirement. And push comes to shove, if city funding was needed in a substantial way, that I didn't see how we could make it work. And basically, Diane decided she wanted a ballpark and thought it would be good for downtown. And so here we are. So I just, you know, I think it's fair to put the credit where it's due.
And I think that's good to hear from the counselors too, Lori, because I hear this so often. Sometimes I get flack in the community and people say, you guys are letting Diane, she's doing this and that. But I'm like, you know, we are very fortunate. And I know I always say this, I'm a native of Gary and it's like a ghost town. So it's nice that she's investing into our community because she could certainly invest somewhere else. So, yeah, and we may not agree with all of her views, but what she does is very complimentary to our city.
And this is not a profit-making, enterprise. I'm just going to tell you right now, minor league baseball is not a moneymaker. And even cities who run them, they run them with a subsidy. So the fact that they are taking on all of that risk is pretty impressive, in my opinion.
So thank you, Lori. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Julie. Thank you to everybody and all our staff that's involved in this project. So we're going to keep it moving. We're going to play ball, right? Okay. So now I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So
I will
moved.
now accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by
Nancy Forbeck.
Crusher. Is there a second? Was
Second
that
by
Councilor
Nancy
Forbeck?
Forbeck.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilor Crusher, a second by Councilor Forbeck. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, would all in favor, please say aye.
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 We are now adjourned.